think it should be that, in my experience, I think the best we could do for our children would be to allow them to go at their own rate of speed and just have them pass on to the next class if they're ready, or have curriculum flexible enough so that if the child is grasping very quickly, that they not be held back either by special needs of other children or by a curriculum that says this is what you must do at this grade level.
My oldest was a gifted learner. She was reading by 3 and was very bored with a lot of the information, but there was nothing to challenge her. They refused to challenge her. They wouldn't move her up. There was a big struggle on what to do with her, just leave her where she is. And so she became the teacher's assistant, and that was their solution to challenging her. But every single day after school, she would have a complete breakdown.
Children are individuals. We are individuals as adults. Why would we try to compartmentalize our youth, our young people? This is where they need to be exploring and finding out who they are, how well they can go, and what better avenue for self-esteem than for a child or a student to be able to pursue at their own rate and find out that they can. And those that can't, that's perfectly okay too. There's not a particular, you must do this by age 2 or 5 or 7. Why do we do that to our children?
One of those breakdowns that you couldn't even communicate to her in that moment because she was just elsewhere. And it was really stressful because it wasn't anything I get a little emotional.
They had quizzes every single Friday, and she was coming home with D's and F's on every one of those quizzes. It didn't matter how much I went over that piece of paper with her, she just wasn't getting it. And so I kept telling her to bring home her history book so that we could go over it. She kept forgetting. She said we never use it. I didn't believe her. Finally went to school, talked to the teacher, said I'm here for the history book. The teacher said, we don't use the history book. And I said, well, what do you mean? How are you doing it? He goes, it's all based on my lecture. We don't use the book because out of 20 pages, they may only be required to learn the information by law in 2 of those pages. So it's just a waste. We don't use the book. And my jaw dropped, and I said, then how is my daughter supposed to learn?
I couldn't do anything. There's no snack would help. Having soothing music, I tried everything to see what I could do to prevent it. And I started to really think this is school. She's not enjoying it. It's stressful, it's tiring, it's just work. And my youngest, they refused to believe that she had issues. I kept saying, she's not speaking clearly. I'm sure that there's a speech issue going on. And as my daughter's advocate, eventually discovered that not only did she have speech issues, she's also dyslexic. And that was pretty much the seal for me. I resigned at the end of the year. I graduated the students. I had taken that far. I was definitely not going to miss that. I was attached to my students, but I knew I was not coming back. And I knew that I was going to put the passion that I had in my classroom into my own classroom with my kids. And they've flourished ever since.
And he said, well, what do you mean? I said, she's in reading resource at the same time you're doing the history. Well, she's getting the notes from the people next door, her neighbors. And I said, they don't like to give her the notes because they think that she's cheating. And he finally went, oh. And I said, so all of the kids are now seeing big red F's on her paper. And how do you think her self-esteem is doing to see those F's? The kids are making fun of her. She's feeling like a failure, and she's not learning. That was when I had it, and that's when I pulled my kids.
I'm Beverly Burgess. I have 3 children, ages 17, 14, and 10 that I homeschool, and we've been homeschooling for about 8 years here in Rhode Island and enjoying every minute of it. I am the state coordinator for Enrich RI. We are the largest secular homeschooling group in the state of Rhode Island, with 200 member families and probably 600 or so individual members in our group. And we've grown exponentially in the past. In the past year, we've just seen a huge insurgence of people really wanting to homeschool their children. So we're happy to help them on their journey and assist them any way we can.
How are we to be creative in our adult life and learn and come up with new and exciting things if we don't know how to create, if we don't know how to use our imagination? It's not something that can be taught out of a book. It's something that has to come from within and be nurtured and to be explored.
I think the message I would send out to parents is to really do your research and find out what works best for your children. That may be public school, it may be private school. For most of us, it's, coming here today, it's homeschooling, that's been a true joy for us, and that there are tons of resources for you to pull from, and groups for support, and so many different methods to help you along the way. Our group does a Homeschool 101 every single month at various libraries through the state, and there's just so many support systems out there, and it is absolutely a viable option. And to know that there's others out there that are struggling with homeschooling, and there's others out there that are struggling with public school and private school, and just to focus on what works best for your children, to really liberate them in their education, and to feel good about it.
There's more and more gyms that are opening up, gymnastics during the day, and people starting to teach yoga during the day. It's just art classes at RISD. The list goes on. We'd be here till tomorrow if I listed all the options available to the kids.
We started with a little announcement. We're going to try homeschool wrestling at a convenient time, and we started with 2 boys, and the response was overwhelming. As high as 52 boys have been part of this team at one point or another. We currently hold at about 35. Our first year was a trial. The boys went out there and they all worked hard. The sport is beautiful. It doesn't reward everybody with a trophy. You have to work hard in order to win. This year we will have a couple boys who will compete for state championships and move on to a regional area. And that is with only 13 boys actually actively competing. Next year we'll probably have all 30 actively competing.
I think teachers need to be allowed to be teachers again. And don't worry about the test scores. Just teach. Find out what the kids want to learn and teach them. Give them the opportunity to learn.
Because our kids need to go as quickly and as fast as they're capable of going in the directions they need to go. And we should be there as teachers, channeling and helping them to realize their greatest potential.